In podcast one, podcast 5 of the current season of the Kriya Yoga podcast, so it's like 1S5 or IS5, stands for Infinite Season 5. You spoke about how when we're caught up in the senses, we draw the current down into the lower chakras. But the aim, as you described, is to bring the current upward into the higher brain centers and live from a sattvic state. Yes. And you can review the why of that in my book, An Essential Guide to Kriya Yoga Practice, where it talks about the downward flow and the upward flow. I appreciate your reminder that this current is always flowing whether we're conscious of it or not. This brought up a question. Now, brace yourself. We're about to enter a philosophical zone where no real answers can be given other than to encourage you to practice in such a way that you realize it for yourself. Basically what I'm saying is I can't really answer this question. And I don't think anyone can, because if anyone could, I'm sure it would have been in some book or on some YouTube video by now. If there is ultimately only one reality, why does Sankhya philosophy present a dualistic framework? If nature is the body of God, then wouldn't that mean Prakriti and Purusha are one? My understanding of Kriya Yoga is that it's a unifying practice meant to help us see the many as one. I would really appreciate any insight you have around this seeming contradiction. It is a seeming contradiction, and there are many reasons that it is hard to speak to this. Number one, people really seem to like the idea that everything is one. We want everything to be one thing, right? Most of us want that. Why? Have you ever really thought about that? Have you ever really considered like why it's so important for everything to be one? What is the reason that we want everything to be one thing? That's the first thing we have to consider here. Many spiritual teachers talk that way, and I've done it. I'm guilty of it, so I apologize. They talk about this oneness. And I feel that it is an okay concept to have. It is an okay concept to have, but talking about oneness and even meditating on oneness doesn't completely liberate you. And this is where it gets a little tricky. The path of Kriya Yoga, when you get down to the essentials of it, it is absolutely based on Sankhya philosophy. This is why Roy Eugene Davis spent a good deal of time in his books enumerating the cosmic processes of manifestation. That's all Sankhya philosophy. Why would he do that? We have to get it into our mind and our consciousness that these things exist. He did that because once you start to wonder in the way you are wondering, well, now you begin to be inspired to look a little more deeply into this idea of oneness. And when you read Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, and when you read Sankhya philosophy, we often think of the word Samadhi as though Samadhi means unification, bringing together to experience that state of oneness. That is one way of looking at it, but it's not the ultimate experience. Samadhi is a process that leads you to divine knowledge. So when we think of Samadhi as it relates to Kriya Yoga is meant to help us experience Samadhi, but what is it really doing? It's unifying our chitta, our field of consciousness, to one thing. That is the Samadhi that we're talking about here. Because most of the time, we're thinking about the glass of water, we're thinking about the leaves blowing, we're thinking about what are our kids up to, we're thinking about the music going through our mind. Our awareness is, as Roy would say, Mr. Davis would say, fragmented. And by fragmented, it means here, there, everywhere, dancing around, right? But the practice of Samadhi is lessening those waves, lessening those fluctuations so that you're just focused on one thing. Whether it's the breath, that's a stage of it. Whether it's the subtle processes of cosmic manifestation, or as you move through these stages, eventually you focus solely on the soul, Purusha, the seer, the witness. So the idea of Samadhi is not oneness as in homogenizing everything that you experience. It's about bringing your awareness to one point, to meditation, to one point. Because once you are able to do that, once you are coherent in that way, the next stage is discernment, viveka khyati. And this is what Kriya Yoga is really doing. And this is why Samkhya is so important. Because all the principles of Samkhya, the elements, the sense of I, the mind, the intellect, the buddhi, and so on, that is all prakriti, that is all nature. You are not that in any way. The trouble is that we think we are all these things that are bouncing around. And the reason Samkhya and the dualistic philosophy is so important is because it is encouraging you to go through a methodical process of recognizing, I am not this, I am not that. I am not anything that can be seen, touched, experienced, thought about, imagined, remembered. I am actually not any of those things. Why? Because those things come and they go. They're not eternal. The memory comes, it goes away. The emotion comes, it goes away. The tea comes, the tea goes away. Everything is changing. But there is something which is beyond description, beyond the mind, beyond the emotions, beyond the psychology, which has persisted through all of that. That is the seer, the witness. And it is incomprehensible. Even just using the word doesn't do it justice. So Sankhya is a model that when you engage that model, you accept that principle of duality, prakriti and purusha. You get over your need for everything to be one thing. And again, I still can't find a really rational, good reason. Who cares whether it's one thing or two things? Like, really, what difference does it make if there's one thing or two things? But it leads you methodically through the process of recognizing, experiencing the tattvas, experiencing the earth element, the water element, experiencing the bliss of the ahankara, or not the ahankara, the bliss of the antakarana, the bliss of the buddhi, the bliss of om, the bliss of this cosmic vibration. But then you're not that either. That's pure sattva. You got to let go of that too. And if you follow the step-by-step process, then you see the reality. And the reality cannot be called one thing. It cannot be called two things. It cannot be called anything. Just like in olden days, before the word God was invented, you did not give a name to God. You did not describe God. You could not, you just didn't do it because it's impossible. But the beautiful thing about all of this is the Kriya Yoga processes that you know, taught through Paramahansa Yogananda, Roy Eugene Davis, and so on. The text of the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. If you can engage those things, if you have a guide that can help you navigate those things, you won't care about whether it's all one or it's not, because you will have been able to follow a step-by-step process that took you from the words, the concepts, to the actual experience of what Prakriti is, of what Purusha is. And that is liberating. That's why, again, in the Bhagavad Gita, it says, the yogi endures pleasure and pain while seeking knowledge. That's what's going on here. And the knowledge is not words on paper. The knowledge is full-blown, direct experience of, as best words can say, of what reality is. So when you say to me, reality is one thing, I say, great. We can use that if it's helpful for us right now to inspire us on our path. But when you see the reality, when you are there touching it, for lack of a better word, the idea of one thing, two things, whatever, it's not a thing. it's not, conceptually, the concepts aren't there. So I would reread the Understanding the Holy Science. Nice big book, keep you busy for a while. But I would read that and I would contemplate that a lot. Your first step, moving from your Kriya practice, as you know it right now, to getting a sense of what I'm trying to explain and probably failing terribly at, or no, I'm failing very well at, is to study, contemplate, and try to figure out what the heck Sri Yukteswar was saying. And I spend about 520 pages attempting that process. But the thing about the stuff in this book is that there are exercises to help get you into the experience rather than just having it in your mind. That is a difficult thing that we see. And it's hard because, especially when someone is a good thinker, and you know when you're a good thinker, when you can write things out and you can have diagrams and you can have all these things, when someone is a good thinker, they can be really satisfied with, all right, I see it. There's the variables, there's the formulas. And they feel that that's it. And they don't have any concept of what those things are referring to. And that's the danger of being a very good thinker. But for Kriya Yoga, you can't just be a thinker, you have to be a doer. And it is the doing, Kriya it means doing, action. It is the doing of the stuff which reveals what the map is pointing to. And that is the most important thing. That is the most important thing. Otherwise, what happens is, if you've just got all the information, you can talk like you know what you're talking about, and you believe it, so you're telling the truth, and there's a power of truth behind it, but it's not transformational. It doesn't lead to a sense of, oh, okay, I'm fulfilled. I am a spiritually free being. Great. You know, it doesn't lead to that. It just leads to more thinking. So I went a little further than I wanted to with that. But mainly, think about Samkhya philosophy and set aside your concern about things being one thing. Take some time to recognize whether it's one thing or two things, who cares? What if there's a process in Sankhya philosophy? What if I could understand these things? And there is a way to understand it, a step-by-step way. And you might want to apply for the advanced Kriya Yoga Apprenticeship thing, which happens a few years after the 2-year process, because we go into that stuff. We explore that stuff. And we go through the processes that give you the experience of it. And I've been very happy with that whole course, because the few people that have gone through it, they are seeing the truth of it. They're doing the process, and we don't necessarily have deep conversations about it, but they try to explain, and I know, yes, that's it, great. We now see the same thing. So you need to kind of broaden your perspective a little bit and not worry about whether it's one or two things. Sure, focus on the love of God, divine inspiration, truth, all of that. It's wonderful stuff to focus on. But the one and the two things, don't let that trouble you, I would say. All right, so there's one attempt at a philosophical conundrum. Let's look at the next one.